Welcome,
Good
welcome.
morning. Good morning, and welcome to the International Mastermind Show. This is Galen Bingham, the leadership strategist, and this is the Think and Grow Rich show. So, welcome and happy 2024 to many of you because I know that I haven't seen you. I don't think we've had shows in 24 yet. We're fresh off the annual meeting, which we're going to talk about later. But today is an incredibly special conversation for a couple of different reasons. Number one, we're going to be starting this process all over again. We're going to be starting with the first principle, and that is the principle of desire, which is the foundation. That's the starting point of all achievement is desire. So we're going to be talking about that. And then secondly, we've got an incredibly special guest, Mr. Amani Roberts, who is a Washington, D.C. born and bred creative and Howard University graduate. I don't know if I can say HU because I didn't go to Howard. So I don't know if I can say HU, but I'm sure he's going to clear that up. But he's a DJ. And so we start talking about being a creative, when you start talking about desire and the importance of desire, especially when you're creating a business, then he is the person to start. He is the person to start that conversation with. Plus, he is the author of his first book, DJs Mean Business. So when you start again talking about creating a successful business, desire is where you start. But I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm so excited about Amani Roberts joining us. I need to introduce my co-host. So I'm gonna bring in my co-host, Dr. Peter James. How you doing, man? Seems like I just saw you at the annual meeting. We just got back, but we're at it again, man. How you doing?
Oh, we're going to talk annual meeting in just a little bit there, Galen. I'm doing well. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to all of our audience. We are in 2024 and we are starting Think and Grow Rich with chapter one, desire. I got to ask you and everyone, Galen, what does desire look like in your life, especially towards your goals and objectives? Let me even ask a coach type question. On a scale of 1 to 10, where is desire towards your goals? What does it look like? And sometimes we don't answer that question enough because, as Napoleon Hill says in this text, this desire is the first step. It is where you need to begin in order to accomplish your goals and your dreams. No more wishing. What does it need to look like? So I'm excited, Galen. We're going to dive on in, man.
Fantastic, fantastic. And then we've got our founder, our fearless leader, Miss Ann McNeil, who is also celebrating International Founders Day for her dear sorority, Delta Sigma Theta. Miss Ann McNeil, happy Founders Day to you and welcome to your show.
All right, Galen and Peter, thank you so very much. And again, Ann McNeil, the master wealth builder, helping you to build a stronger and better life in business. And I'm excited, yes, to be part of Delta Sigma Theta for over 40 years. I won't go too far past that. But I'm also excited to be here with all of you talking about this first principle of desire. And everything starts with that desire. And as we were discussing prior to the podcast starting, when we get into these 6 steps, I call them my 6-step business plan, but it all starts with the desires. It may be about the money for you and it may not be, but whatever it is, you need to have a desire that is so strong that it is a burning desire, something that will pull you to and pull you through those hard and challenging times. And I know that is exactly what we're going to discuss today with our phenomenal guests. But as you say, I'm not going to get ahead of the show. So let's get this party started.
All right. Hey, so I wanted to, before we bring in our special guest, I wanted to share with you something I was thinking about as I was preparing for this, and how they say that desire is the most important element of this entire process. And there's a show, I don't watch a whole lot of TV, but there's a show that when it's on, I find myself captivated. and that show is called Undercover Billionaire. I believe it's Undercover Billionaire or Millionaire. And it showcases these entrepreneurs who have already made millions and millions of dollars, if not $1 billion, and they give them a time period and $100, and they want to see if they can do it again. And throughout the show, you see these people with nothing in their pocket but $100 and a desire to make back and to demonstrate how they would make back their money again. And by the end of the show, I don't think I've ever seen one episode where they weren't successful. And so that really does fly in the face with all of these people that say you've got to have money to make money. Well, you only need $100. You got to know people in order to make money, because they're not allowed. These people are not allowed to have their cell phones. They're not allowed to use their name. They're literally in this show with $100 and a desire to make their millions back, and they do it every time. So that is what we're talking about here. How do we follow this process, starting with a desire to create something that we say that we really want? And that's kind of a contemporary example of these principles that we talk about every week. Uh, I can't think of anyone more creative, anyone that seems to really step into social situations with nothing but a desire to create a good time than a DJ. Because again, you got everybody looking at you, and all you've got are your turntable, your equipment, and your ability to create a good time with music. So with that, I want to bring in Mr. DJ's mean business himself, Amani Roberts. Come on in, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you all for having me today. I appreciate the invitation and being here.
Well, hey man, before we get into this conversation in a deep way, give everyone a little deeper explanation of your background, because you've done quite a bit, and a lot of times people will see DJs as being a fun pastime, and it is a lot of fun for those who get into it. But you have really built out the business element, the serious element of this craft. And I'd love for you to just share the background that's led to this, and then we'll get into this conversation as to how does Think and Grow Rich fit into the success that you're having and the success that you got planned.
Absolutely. So like you said, I went to Howard University. My major was hospitality management with the minor in finance. I grew up working in hotels. I started working in hotels when I was 17 years old. Started as, if you remember back in the day, when you went to a banquet, you'd have to buy a ticket to get a drink from the bar. I was the person that sold you the ticket. And so that was my first job there, like, freshman year of college. And then I grew up working for Marriott Hotels. So I traveled all over the country, went from DC, graduated in Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, Miami, back to DC, and then out to Los Angeles. What I did was I first started in operations, was general manager of a hotel at age 23. Then from there, I went into sales, and I just stayed in sales all the way. I got out to LA working different jobs. And it was when I was in LA that I decided to go and try to be a DJ, self-taught at first. And then once I had a really close friend say, you should look into Scratch Academy, which is a DJ school for DJs. Jam Master Jay from Run DMC started it. Unfortunately, he was murdered 6 months after he started, but I went to the school that was in LA. I did that program, had an amazing experience. It was very challenging. And then from there, my DJ business kind of grew. I then retired from Marriott at a very young age and started to pursue DJing full time, which led me to kind of diversifying my income streams. And that led me to also become a professor at Cal State University Fullerton. I've been there for like 5.5 years, wrote a book that was released April 2020, currently writing another one. And so that kind of is hopefully quick enough, the little outline of my career and how it took me to where I am today.
Boy, you covered a lot in a short amount of time, man. Great work, great work. Hey, before we get into this conversation deeper, I just want to acknowledge the folks who are watching us on YouTube. We've got Mr. Wyman Wimbush. He is always in here kicking out the wisdom, which you would expect from the wisdom broker. Ms. Doretha Dennis, Colette Coleman, Smitty, MZ446 Smitty, and Katricia Pitts. Thank you so much for joining us. We got Shannon Charlton joining us and chiming in. If you are watching us, please take a moment to do a couple of things. Number one, look over underneath that video picture and hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you know when we go live. And then also you see that thumbs up and that thumbs down. Well, forget about that thumbs down, but hit that thumbs up button, because the more thumbs up we get while we are live, the more the higher on the thread this video becomes, and other people can check us out. So let's take that number from 2 to at least 7 or 8 or 9. And then that other arrow, that share arrow, hit that share and share this with at least 3 people that you believe need to hear this conversation, because we are starting at the beginning, the foundational part of this book, Think and Grow Rich, and we're starting with desire. And we want to make sure that all of your friends are along for the ride. So with that, I'm going to ask Ms. Ann, could you kind of take us through this video, set up this video for the 13 principles. Every conversation I have with you, you're referencing at least 1 or 2 of those principles. So let's share what all of these principles are about.
Absolutely, Galen. And I will say thank you for this opportunity to share these. But this particular principle that we're discussing today, desire, is my favorite principle. And Napoleon Hill shares 13 principles, which we're going to play the video. But I'd like to challenge each of you, as you listen to our guest today and as you participate in this conversation, think about which of these principles is your favorite principle and put it in the chat on YouTube. And even if you're listening to the replay, still put it in the chat. Even if you're listening on Facebook later on, put your favorite principle in the chat. But also tell us why. You see, for me, desire is my favorite because the other book says that he will give us the desires of our heart. And it all starts there. So once you have that desire, ask yourself the question, do you have the faith? Do you have the faith? Do you have the auto-suggestion, some kind of statement, a prayer, an affirmation, something that you're willing to recite twice a day to connect that desire to your faith? 6 Steps to Riches, whatever you want to call it, is a good place to start. And auto-suggestion, then do you have the specialized knowledge? We're hearing today from our guest, he has specialized knowledge. Even though he has an undergraduate degree from a university, he still went to specialize, to niche, to be richer in his new craft, which is very different than what he was trained to do at the university. Of course, I can walk through all 13 principles. I think the video will do a better job. But nevertheless, we want you to engage with us. Again, put your favorite in the chat. But once you have that specialized knowledge, how do you use your imagination with that specialized knowledge to connect to your desire? And then once you have that, do you have any organized plans? Yes, Galen, we can go to the video because I will actually walk through all 13 and then there's no need to play the video. But anyway, let's go ahead and play the video.
Number 1 is desire. Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step 2 is faith, having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step 3 is what we call autosuggestion. Autosuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number 4 is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the mastermind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number 5 is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts, the burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought isn't going to get us anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 Feet from Gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the Wild Wild West days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us, use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical, but what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles.
All right, and there you have it, all 13 steps. I question whether that was a better depiction of those 13 principles than what Anne would have done, just rolling off the cuff, because she's been doing this since 1979. So, but let's get into this conversation. So, Amani, you heard me at the beginning of this conversation talk about undercover billionaire, where folks have $100 on a dream and some know-how, but really it's desire that allows them to get to rebuild their millions in just a matter of a few weeks. How closely is that related to your journey, where you had some skills, you had some knowledge of business, but it was really your passion for DJing that allowed you to be in this space that you're in now? How important is desire for the success that you're currently enjoying?
I think it's very, very crucial. Just to tell, a quick story, like I was working at Marriott and I wanted to be a DJ, so I had to make a decision to leave and retire and take a 70% pay cut while living in Los Angeles. So I had to have the desire to be successful very quickly. So I left and I had to build very similar. It's a good parallel to the undercover billionaire story. I wasn't a billionaire yet, but I had to kind of rebuild with a little bit of money and just start to network and to go to get different schooling, as Ann said, and just really, really try to build my business from scratch, which also taught me that I needed to diversify because, as we know, in entrepreneurship, you have up and down seasons. So you need something to kind of keep you going while you might be going through a tougher season. So you have to have desire. Otherwise, you will stop and you will quit. So I think it plays a very important role.
Fantastic. So, and I'm going to come back to you. What questions do you have for Amani? Because you did a great job of kind of setting up how this works, and would love for you to get into this conversation.
Absolutely. And Amani knows me well enough to know I always want to go back to the book. And my question for you, Amani, to start is, what was the first introduction of this book to you? Can you share?
I think I first heard about the book when I was first kind of going into entrepreneurship, and many people had mentioned that it's a great read. And I might have read it a long time ago, but didn't really pay close attention to it. Then when I got into the mastermind is when I really was able to dig into it and see the parallels, see how, my mindset was within this book. So that was my first time really getting exposed to it. And then, the past year or so, really digging into it even deeper.
Now, when you say the mastermind, can you share with our audience which mastermind is that?
Yes, the Think and Grow Rich Mastermind, that is Ann McNeil's mastermind. I've been in it twice now, and my first experience was the spring 2023 version of that. Yes.
Now, just curious though, because we have a lot of us who actually that's how all of us met. But is there a difference between you going through the mastermind with us the first time and the second? And I do want to make sure that everybody's listening to this. I want you to know that we host underneath the National Speakers Association. We have what we call Black NSA $1 Million Mastermind. And that's what Amani is referring to. So was there any difference between you going through the book with us the first time versus the second?
So the first time I went through it, I was a participant. And so I was a little bit intimidated, if I'm being honest, because, there were a lot of very, very successful people there, but they were being very open and transparent about their goals. Some people had really, really large goals in terms of the amount of money they wanted to make during the mastermind. But it was also very inspiring. And so then when I came back the second time, I was a facilitator, and that gave me an even more inside look in terms of just the way they think, how they set up their goals, how to also relate to other people who might be struggling a bit. So that was the difference between the first time and the second time. The second time I also made more money and exceeded my goal too, which was even better. So that's what I would say. Two main differences right there.
All right, Galen.
All right, Dr. Peter, what thoughts do you have?
Yeah, such a great conversation, and I'm excited. As I've been mentioning already, it's a new year. Amani, we're diving into 2024. I know you have goals. I know you're setting things up for yourself for 2024. Where does desire play in as it relates to your goals? And here's where let me give you an example of what that possibly looks like. I may have a goal, as I mentioned even before we got on the air today, to be more to develop more systems, to delegate better. My desire behind that is that I need to be able to free up more of my time to focus on some more higher level things. And it's very, very important for this to be to take place so that my business can be more successful. From your perspective, what does desire look like for your goals? Maybe you could start out with the goals, but why is that so important for Amani?
I think when I think about desire, two things come up right away.
Mhm.
Like I have a desire to fully launch my second book, which is on why there are no longer any Black R&B groups, because the end result will be that will allow me to then launch and create a course which can bring me more money. So that will be the first one. The second desire I have is I need to tighten up my branding more because I do four things like, I'm a DJ, professor, professional speaker, author, but I need to tie that up into one nice package. So when I communicate that to people, it's very simple and effective, which would then lead me to get more professional speaking events and just get more revenue. So those are the two desires that come up right away when you ask me that question.
Let's go a little bit deeper even. And I appreciate that because that was very clear for the audience for sure. And it really allowed them to see the process, how you're thinking about it in your mind to the outcome for sure. I'm hearing the passion around what you do also, and that's a little bit tied to the desire. Of course, the next chapter is faith. Napoleon Hill, of course, says in his book that the desire with when you combine desire and faith, there is no such thing as impossible. So now, as you think about these things that you need to dive into, whether it's the combining of the messaging or even focusing in order to get to that course, how confident, how strongly is that desire to ensure that gets done? Maybe if I could ask it this way, on a scale of 1 to 10, what does it look like for you, my friend?
I would say it's probably I'd say 9.5. Like there's no choice, no option. Like it has to happen. Like I've been talking about the book particularly for years since because I went to grad school at Berklee College of Music in Boston. And when I finished in 2021 for my master's in music business, this was my thesis. And it was in 2021 that I knew I wanted to turn it into a book. So now we're coming up on 2 years, going into the third year. Like it's gonna happen because it's time to kind of move forward, make it happen, and then use this as a springboard to open up and make even bigger things for myself and my business.
Here's my last question. I'm gonna pass it back to Gayla really quickly. You said you've been wanting to do this for a few years. What has been getting in the way if you reflect on those last few years, if you don't mind?
What's the chapter we have? I know it's the opposite of what persistence is called, just procrastinating. Procrastinating, not making excuses, not really getting the process done. But it was really this past summer, right before I went to Influence, National Speakers Association Influence Conference, where I went to a solo writing retreat and was able to really get almost half of the book written. And now the momentum has continued to build from there. So I would just say what prevented me was just procrastinating, just making excuses. So there's no excuse. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. Thank you so much there, Amani. Galen, I just put Amani through the ropes, man.
Hey, I want to build on something that Peter kind of opened the door for because there's a phrase tumbling around that says most successful people, the people that we marvel at, were once thought to be delusional, right? It's like the folks who we are like amazed at, the Elon Musks of the world, the Warren Buffetts of the world, the Oprah Winfrey's of the world, they were at some point thought to be delusional. You're absolutely crazy. There's no way you can do this thing that you say that you want to do. And delusion seems to be at the core of this burning desire that Napoleon Hill talks about. Even Edwin Barnes in his story was delusional, right? I'm gonna partner with Edison. I'm not gonna work for Edison. I'm gonna be a partner with Edison. How how closely is delusion tied to the kind of desire that you've had to get to where you are? I mean, you had a really good job with a good company. I'm sure you heard that from your mamas and your aunties. You gonna do what?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, exactly. That's what they said. They said you're gonna leave a mid six-figure job, put all that money away to go be a DJ. And what is a DJ? And what are you gonna be on the radio? They didn't understand what I was gonna do. They didn't understand how I was gonna get money. They didn't understand benefits. Like, how are you gonna get benefits so you can go to the doctor if you need to go to the doctor? So they thought I was crazy or delusional. We use delusional. And no one really got it. I mean, it took my mom years to understand exactly what I was doing and how I was earning money. By the way, Ann, my mom was a Delta too, so I understand, I respect for you there. um, so people thought I was crazy. And then to write a book as a DJ, why would you write a book? That doesn't make sense. To write a second book, it's just it continues really, but you really have to turn a blind eye, a deaf ear, and just really focus and not let the people who don't understand your desire stop you from moving forward.
Yeah. How do you do that? I mean, I want to come back to Ann because I know she's got a question, but Amani, how do you do that? I mean, because there's got to be parts in the quiet of night where you got to wonder, am I crazy? Am I delusional? It's like I could go to the restaurant and order anything I wanted to last month, and now I got to decide, right? I can't just roll up and do whatever I need, wherever I want to. How do you turn a blind or deaf ear to all the naysayers who are trying to keep you safe?
I think, you have to block out the noise. You surround yourself with some people who support you and really, will give you honest feedback, but overall they support you, want to see you succeed. I think that's very important. I think you have to celebrate any small victory you have. Like, for example, once I were to leave Marriott and start working on my own, when I got my first big client, make sure you celebrate and acknowledge that. So you say, okay, this is the first of many to come. So celebrate small victories. And then that really just keep moving forward. Try to block out the noise. If you've noticed that there's a particular person or a group of people who continue to discount what you're doing, or to kind of, for lack of a better word, they become haters, then kind of move away from them and don't spend a lot of time with them. So just surround yourself with great people. I think that's the two key steps that helped me in the beginning.
I like that. I like that. And that's personal too, because typically when I get around people and they don't see the vision, I have a tendency to want to explain the vision. I want to convince them of the vision. I want to get them on board. And Anne is shaking her head because she's like that is a fool's errand. So Aaron, come on, Anne, come on in with your question.
Well, my question, Amani, is what makes you different than all of the DJs?
Mm.
Are you based upon your desire?
What makes me different, I think, is a combination of my history. For example, grew up playing the saxophone. So played that all the way through junior high and high school in the jazz band, a very successful jazz band. Then my experience in hospitality. So not only I've been behind the scenes, so I understand what clients want, how it works, at venues and events, and then I'm there performing. So I have that experience. Then the business knowledge that I have, I think that accounts for a lot also. And then just my taste in music. Growing up, I would go to a lot of soccer games. I played soccer growing up. My dad would take me all over the East Coast. We would go and play soccer, and so I was just exposed to the music that I liked, which he didn't like. But then I also most of the time would listen to his music that was a little bit more R&B, jazz, funk, which formed my taste. And every DJ is different in terms of being a tastemaker, and that's kind of what's formed me. And then finally, I would say the ability to consistently take risks. Like, I took a risk by leaving my corporate job. I can take a small risk by trying out a new genre of music when I'm playing at an event. I take a risk by moving from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, where more people thought I was delusional. So Galen, so that came up again. So just consistently taking risks, trying to reinvent. I think that's what makes me different.
Well, I'd like to add to that. I think that what I see that makes you different than many DJs is that your burning desire as a businessman who happens to be a DJ versus a DJ who happens to be a businessman. And every single thing that you just mentioned, with your imagination and creativity, it is what Nito Cobain is becoming intentionally congruent, if you will, to make you into the DJ, if you will, who is a very successful businessman. So yes, we are going to continue to watch and support you, if you will. And, I'm always talking about the money. So we'll talk about that all.
Yes, for sure.
Because that's got to be the driving force.
Amen.
All
Yes.
right, Peter.
Good stuff there, Amani. Amani, as you think about this year, we've really been hammering you on the desire. So I appreciate you being a good sport as we dive into this. And actually, part of the reason that we're doing this is because we have audience members who need to hear this for themselves and maybe put themselves in your shoes to find out and to really evaluate who, how, and what they need to be in order to accomplish their dreams, especially for this year, but even beyond that. So if you had a message for them, especially based on your journey, if you had a message for individuals around desire or around the intentionality for moving forward, what would that look like? What could you communicate to our audience that may benefit them even more?
I would say if they have an idea or they have something that they've been considering doing, particularly in the business field for a long time, to try to put some steps into place to do it sooner than later, because it's very cliche, tomorrow's not guaranteed, but don't put it off. I think a lot of times we get caught up in putting things off. Oh, I'll get to that eventually or someday, that's the fable or whatever, but don't put it off. Just start to make it happen as soon as possible. Go for it, because you never know what will happen. I would have never imagined when I left my Marriott job, now it's been, we're in 20, like almost 12 years to the date soon, 12 years ago, that I would never have imagined that I would become also a professor, write a book, go to grad school. Like that was never in the mind. The goal was just to pursue DJing full time. And so all these other things have happened along the way that have been beneficial. But if I had never gone for it, I've never would have experienced it. So that's kind of my message to them.
I love that. And I even love the intentionality, the specificity around what your goals are. And oftentimes we are very vague with our goals. I want to be successful. I want to travel. Very vague.
I want to make a lot of money. I want to make a lot of money.
I want to make a lot of money. Right. And who doesn't? Right? Who doesn't want to make a lot of money? But how can you be very specific and intentional about that, the narrowness, as I like to call the funnel of towards your goal, towards your objective? And I think that's something that I'm hearing from you wholeheartedly, even from the beginning of this conversation. Kudos to you, my friend. Keep that up. Get even narrower.
Yeah.
Right, Ann? Am I on point, Ann McNeil?
Yes. We have a question from Wyman. Galen, if you want to tee that up.
Yeah. I want to bring that question. I think it's incredibly timely. He says he's just reflecting on the fact that you took a 70% pay cut.
Yeah.
And that at what point did you mentally burn the ships on the beach, as it would have been easy for you to return back to your comfort zone and get some of those points that you cut, right? I didn't need to cut 70. Let me go back and get 20 of those points.
Yeah.
Get some of that money back. At what point did you mentally, even before you left the company, did you mentally say, this is what I've got to do?
I think I remember a couple occasions. One time while I was still with the company, I had a boss, but she was more focused in her next promotion. So she wasn't spending the appropriate amount of time with like us who were directly reporting to her. And I was like, nah, this is not going to work. Then after I left, because that's rough, just how you say you go to a restaurant and I can't just choose what I want to choose. Like I had to start going to Subway and other different kind of restaurants where I couldn't be going to the nicer cheesecake factories. What happened is that when I went to DJ school and I go through the program, and in order to pass the program, you have 6 different classes. To pass the last class, you have to get a 320 out of 400. You're performing each week, whether it be a lounge set, headline set, all these performances. So it's very subjective. You could have a bad day, so your mixing could be off, your song selection could be off. So it's very, very difficult. I got a 318 out of 400, which means I was 2 points away from passing the class. I had to drive down the 405 and decide, do I want to stick with this and go back again, swallow my pride, check the ego? Because first of all, I was one of the oldest one in the class too. I was in a class, I was like 32, 33, class with like 17, 8-year-olds who were, spinning circles around me. So it was very humbling. I had to decide whether or not to try it again, the final class, or take my ball and go home. So I would say that would be when I said, I'm not going back. I'm going to take this class again. And whatever happens, I'm going to pass it and keep moving forward. I ended up, getting one of the highest scores ever the next time through the class. And that was another big springboard. But I would say outside of the event that happened while I was with the company, this was the one event that happened that really caused me to burn the boats because there was no turning back. And that was another big springboard.
Wow, wow. What would you say to that, Amani, that just walked out of the class having almost passed the test? You almost passed the test,
Yeah.
and you're at that precipice. You're at that point where you're having that conversation. What would you say to that younger Amani, 12 years ago?
I would just say, don't give up. You have no idea what is going to come to you as a part of sticking with this. You have no idea who you're going to meet, who you're going to work with, who you'll be exposed to, the stages that you'll be on by completing this process. So I know it could seem quite, what's the right word? Not debilitating, but it was just very humbling. I was very depressed, but just stick with it. It's kind of like the story of persistence, like you're 3 feet away from the goal. So just keep digging and you're going to get there, and then it'll open up a massive amount of opportunity to you. So just don't give up.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I appreciate how you are bringing in various principles from Think and Grow Rich. I'm always curious. When did this book become more than just a book for you? I know the first time I read it, it was, to your point, it was just a book that everyone said I was supposed to read. And eventually we read it a couple of times, and it became a book that I think about quite often. Every conversation I have, I'm bringing in principles from this book. When did the book become more than just a book for you?
That's a great question. I think that after the first Millionaire Mastermind, once we completed the entire process, I was also coming off of a tough relationship. So if you notice, the book talks a lot about like mindset, business, but also personal life too. There's a lot of good elements in there about your personal life in terms of the partner you choose, in terms of having faith. And so I was able to really personally relate a lot of what the book said to what I had just been through in that relationship. And it gave me additional hope, if I'm being frank with you. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, this book is much more than just, a business book or a personal development book. It's all encompassing. And so that's when I was like, I get it now. I get it. And that would be the moment when that happened.
Fantastic, fantastic. Hey, Dr. Peter, I'd like to come back to you because, one of you and I just came back from the annual meeting, and it's kind of a to Amani's point. We talk about our businesses, but we also talk about life, and we talk about a variety of things in this process. Talk a little bit about what this annual meeting is for those who haven't attended, and for those who have attended, but it's been a while. Why would they want to get re-engaged in this annual meeting process?
Yeah, every year we turn the clock from old year to new year, and we do something in our heads. We always say something to the effect of, this year is going to be different. This year, we're going to make some changes. This year, I'm going to have some resolutions. This year, I'm going to do this. This year, I'm going to do that. We often just talk about what we're going to do. And that's the majority of society. Then there's the few of us who go deeper beyond just talking. We begin to document and write what we want to accomplish. Even as Amani mentioned, being very specific about what we want to accomplish, where it's not just a resolution, it's a goal, it's an objective. But we don't just stop at the goals and the objectives. We identify what do we need to do, put in place the steps to get to that goals or objectives. Great example. I want to lose 20 pounds. It's not enough just to say, I want to lose 20 pounds in 2024. Now, what are you going to put in place day by day, hour by hour, meal by meal, workout by workout in order to accomplish that 20-pound goal? And what I love about the annual meeting that Ann McNeil has put together is the opportunity to not even just analyze it for someone like me. It's easier to lean in on my business goals, my career goals, but now I can look at it from 10 areas of my life: my health, my recreation, my travel, my business, my career, but so many different areas of my life that I'm able to lean in on to ensure that there's a better balance. Because as I mentioned, it's easy for me to go all in business and career. You know this, Galen, but it's important for me to ensure that I'm carving out time, intentional about the time to have that balance, to spend it with my family, to spend it with my daughter, to do this or to do that, right? But behind it all, to Armani's point, to our conversation today, is this desire, the desire to do better, be better, level up. But I can't just stop with that desire. I got to go into the specifics. And that's what I love about the annual meeting there, Galen, the specificity. So we just passed it, folks. We just passed it in beautiful Pompano Beach, Florida, on the beach, planning out our year ahead in our lives. But it's never too late to join a mastermind, number one, but it's also never too late to begin preparing for next year's annual meeting as well.
Wow. Fantastic. Fantastic. And anything you want to add to that?
Always. Always. I mentioned one of the items I want to be held accountable for, and it, on page, to go to my book here on how to start and run a successful mastermind, on page number, of course it is, my glasses, 55. On page 55 of my book, How to Start and Run a Successful Mastermind Group, I talk about the annual survey. It's a McNeil Factor product that I created. And thank you so very much, Peter, for walking through all 10 of those areas. And I don't think he would mind if I share, yes, you, Galen, that one of the areas, in whatever you call it, if it is infinite intelligence, you want to call it the sixth sense, you want to call it the spirit, God, whoever you worship, whatever you worship. One of the first areas of the survey that I talk about in how to start and run a successful mastermind group is spiritual. And we can be extremely successful. We can have the money, we can have the house, the car, the awesome business. And for myself, one of the areas I realized, how could I live a word I did not know? How could I live a word I did not know? And so in starting this process and creating this mastermind, and even with what we've just experienced, and I think it was one of the best international mastermind annual meetings. It was not a conference, but annual meetings for your life, not because we were on the beach, not because of the children, not because of anything that we might be able to see and touch with our eyes, if you will. But to me, it was the spirit of family. It was a spirit of unity. It was a spirit of everybody coming together and lifting each other up in the achievement and the accountability for our goals. And so I just cannot say enough to each and every one of you who are listening. Please go to internationalmasterminders.com and register for next year. I will say it again because the rates will go up. Yes, we are going to the Embassy Suites in Boca in 2025. But regardless, figure out what is it that you desire. I am so inspired, Amani, by your story and what you shared, because most times we think about a DJ, seldom is it in alignment with a business. Usually it's just something you do on the side, or I have this part-time gig. But when you think about what you really do, you set the stage for any and every event. And depending upon the stage you set, it dictates how the rest will follow. And oftentimes when we go into some events, the music is playing and everybody gets in a certain mood, if you will, or not. And so I am just inspired and encouraged by what you're doing, because I can just see greater things, because greater is calling, right? But those are just my thoughts. But again, I want to encourage everybody to go to internationalmasterminders.com. And by doing so, register and join us. But also, like Galen keeps saying, subscribe to the YouTube. And if you're interested in being on this podcast with us, talking about and sharing your experience and reading this book, put it in the chat and let us know. And we will definitely make arrangements to see how we can make that happen. All right, Galen.
Fantastic. So, hey, I can't believe how quickly this hour has gone by. I want to go around and just kind of get some key ahas from everyone, and then what is something that you want to leave with the audience? Maybe a project that you're working on, or an insight that you might have. And Amani, I'm going to save you for last. Dr. Peter, I'll start with you. What are some key takeaways from this conversation, and what would you like to leave the audience with, or something that you're working on?
Yeah, such a great conversation around desire. This first principle in Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. If you're watching, listening, and you have never even decided to open up this book, today's your day. Dive on in. It's huge. And here's why. Here's one of the biggest reasons why. And Amani kind of alluded to this. Wishing alone is not going to bring you your outcomes. Remember, I want to make a lot of money. That's not enough. What's the detail? And what I love about this conversation with Amani, what I really took away is he really was specific and detailed about what he wants to accomplish. Now, the challenge with that, Amani, is you have people like Galen, myself, and Ann who are going to say, Amani, how's that going? Where are you with it in a few months? What's getting in the way, my friend? But we need that. I need that. Right? And that's what I really took away from this conversation, or really even reinforced it for me as I continue to move forward. My name is Dr. Peter A. James. I am the high performance coach helping you to shift your mindset. You can find me at shiftyourmindset.com. Also on LinkedIn at Dr. Peter A. James, or Dr. Peter A. James here in Chicago. Galen, I'm excited about 2024. I'm excited to strengthen my desire. How about you, my friend?
Fantastic. Same here. Same here. And I agree with some of the ahas that you shared as well. Miss Ann, what you've been doing this since 1979. What key ahas did you get from this conversation, and what insights or projects would you like to leave the audience with?
Wow, I am still on this idea of taking, and Amani said it. He said, if you have an idea, he had an idea and he was not afraid, like Barnes. Barnes had an idea and he did not let the naysayers stop him from getting on that freight train, going to Edison's office and saying, I want to go into business with you, looking like a tramp. He did not let Edison was not encouraged or inspired, but he did not let Edison's attitude deter him from his desire. And that's what I'm getting from you, Amani. Your persistence, and you keep hitting on many of these other principles. And to have a guest that can connect the principles to each other in a way. They're like tools in your toolbox, like paint for the canvas, if you will. And you're able to pull from them as you need, and be willing to literally make the move. And I, being a part of Black NSC Mastermind, I remember when, right? And to have watched you go through that, that is not just a desire, it is a burning desire. And Galen hit it on the head when he talked about burning the ship. Burning the ship. And every story we read, the Chicago fire, everybody left, except one businessman who say, no, it can burn down again, I'm staying here. That takes a certain kind of character. It takes a certain kind of will, but it takes a certain kind of burning desire. And so that's what I got, and I'm still getting. And so hopefully we'll see you again, the next $1 Million Mastermind. But I would encourage all of us, please connect with AMANI. All of his information is going to be shared. But I really think that you're a person to watch, All right, Galen.
Fantastic. So Amani, I want to come back to you. Great, great insights. Very often when I'm on shows as a guest, I learn as much from hearing myself talk and hearing others exchange than maybe I had thought. What are some key insights that maybe you picked up from this conversation, and what would you like to leave the audience with, or something that you're working on?
Some key insights, like just how Dr. Peter was just kind of really getting me to hone in even more specifically on like goals and things and why. I think that was really key for me. I think just the conversation about desire and looking back in terms of what has got me to this point and then looking ahead. I think there were some good takeaways. In terms of 2024 and kind of what I'm working on, the big project for this year is the release of the book and then the corresponding course for that. That's like a really big deal. And I just, I appreciate how you and Dr. Peter said, you're going to check in a couple months. How's that going? Because, accountability is so important. And we need some people to make sure we don't fall off or to don't get a little bit, for lack of a better word, lazy or whatever. So that's probably the one big thing. And then just to get on more stages as a speaker, whether it be through workshops or, keynotes, those are like the top two things I'm working on this year. And, I just also want to say thank you very much for allowing me to be on the podcast. It's early in the morning where I am. I'm in Las Vegas, so it's almost 6 a.m, but I would wake up again and do it with you again. So I appreciate the opportunity. And this conversation has been very valuable for me as well.
Wow, fantastic. And such an amazing website. So you guys saw that website. Give us the website address, Amani. How can folks get a hold of you if they want to get more of what you've shared with us today?
Yes, website is amaniexperience.com, and the Amani is A like Apple, M like Mary, A like Apple, N like Nancy, I, the word experience.com. Also find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. That's Amani Roberts. You do Amani space Roberts space DJ. I'll pop up there. I have my own podcast with my partner in crime, Mandy Graziano. We do Adventures in Business every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 on the West. And that's just how to reach me. Reach out, connect with me. I'm always willing to learn and talk to people. And just thanks for asking.
All right. And come on in before we close this out. What's your final comment or question?
I'm always thinking of income circles and how to make more money. You don't mind, do you, Money?
I don't mind at all.
I just had this idea from something that has just been going around in my mind for myself, and I'd like to share it with you to consider. I don't know if you've ever thought about creating a DJ Academy, because I would suspect that every time you do a corporate presentation, whether it's keynote, whether it's workshop, or whether you're just DJing, I would like to suspect if you had a landing page or something where people could connect with you if they're interested in your DJ Academy. And then you would teach them how to do. See, a lot of people live vicariously through what they see, they desire, but they just don't know how to make the first step and the second and the third. And I have a feeling that there are a lot of businessmen who are incognito that would love to play. No, wait, hold on now. I know the time is, but this is the masterminding that we do here. I would like to think even people listening to us today, male or female, Hispanic, Black, white, doesn't matter, Chinese, Asian, whatever, it doesn't matter. I would like to think that there are some people all over the world that would love to go to a place, virtual or in person, a place where they can just, try their hand at pretending to be a DJ, or see if they have it. And a virtual academy may be something you may want to consider. So just want to, as a part of your income, because when you talked earlier about the idea of diversification for income, one of the things that I heard years ago that helped me was find somebody who have the same problem you have and help them solve it. And your fortune is found in that passion. Mm-hmm. And that's all I did. I was broken, picked up this book and found some other friends who were broken. And together we created what we now see and what we now know. And I am willing to suspect that there are a lot of people all over the world who would love to be a part of your academy. So those are just some thoughts.
I appreciate it. I wrote it down, and I'll continue to figure out how I can work that in. But thank you for that.
You're welcome. I'm Galen Ann McNeil, the Master Wealth Builder. You can connect with me by going to annmcneil.com. I'm always promoting everybody else. And also, like I said before the podcast, order my book. Actually, order boxes of them for everybody in your mastermind group. It is called How to Start and Run a Successful Mastermind Group, especially page 55.
Wow. And now you see exactly how Ann McNeil has become the master wealth builder, because that is $1 million idea that she just shared, and she acted on it. She just didn't come up with the idea. She shared the idea. So this has been an incredible conversation. And Amani, I want to thank you personally for highlighting for me the importance of having people around you who will help you with your delusion. Right? People who will see your vision or believe in you enough to where I don't see it yet, but I believe in you, because you're going to need people in those moments when you didn't score as well on the test as you had hoped, or you got to order from the other side of the menu as opposed to the big baller side where you're used to playing. You got to make a meal out of the appetizer list. Come on now. We've been there before. But that's what it takes to do this thing that sometimes only you believe that you can do. So my name is Galen Bingham. I'm the leadership strategist. You can find me everywhere on social media and LinkedIn under Galen Bingham, or my various businesses. But the most fun way to follow me is via my podcast, Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership. We are on every podcast platform. We stream in 20 different countries, and we just this past week launched season 5 of the podcast. Great conversation. And it's just a great opportunity for you to talk to other people who have been successful and listen to how they've worked through their being called delusional to get to where they are today. I have really enjoyed this conversation and glad that we're able to launch 2024 together as a mastermind. I want to leave you with these words, and these are the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and I think it ties into today's conversation as well as getting ready to celebrate the national holiday. He says, faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. So sometimes you have to be the only one that believes that this thing is possible. You can't expect other people to believe in your vision because God gave that vision to you. So with that, I want to encourage everyone to join us each and every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern, which is what time is that? 5 o'clock Vegas time?
Yes. 5 o'clock.
Amani?
Yes. Early in the morning.
Early in the morning.
It's still dark outside for me.
Join us each and every Saturday morning where we walk through this book, Think and Grow Rich, written by Napoleon Hill in 1937. I guarantee you that you will find something in this walk that will allow you to achieve your success on purpose. Until next time, think and grow rich. Take care.